All right, we are at the top of the hour, folks, so how about we get things started? Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for an enterprise membership session with HFMA's Bill Casey, Senior Vice President, Business Development, Rich Lucas, Director of Channel Assets, and Heather Hennessy, Manager of Client Services. Let's take a moment now to give a great big thank you to our LTC sponsors for 2020, Parallon, Patient, Cenex, and Russell Investments. And now it's my pleasure to turn things over to Chapter Advancement team members Lynn Weishart and Bill Ickes. Lynn, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Welcome back, everyone. I know that we truly enjoyed the best practice session, and towards the end of that, we started getting some questions based on the Washington, Alaska presentation regarding enterprise. So the timing of this session is perfect. Because that's what we'll be talking about today. So hopefully you're settled and you're ready to get your enterprise on. Bill?
That's right. Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, in this session, we're going to share with you some information about the enterprise membership, which we've all heard about now for quite some time. It's had some great success across the country. And Heather from the enterprise team at HFMA is going to share with us some information about the resources that are available to enterprise members. So Heather, we'll turn it over to you.
And hey, this is Bill Casey. As Heather starts to join, I want to just jump in and thank everybody for their participation, being here today. The enterprise program is just 3 years old. And it's really exciting to see the growth that we've had. I'm thrilled that today we've got representatives from our enterprise team here to be able to give you an overview of some of the methods and processes that we've put in place to guarantee that our enterprise members are engaged. And these sessions are always very spirited. We appreciate your passion around guaranteeing that or helping with the success of this program, and we've identified better ways of communicating to our volunteers as a result of that. So as Heather comes up, I wanted to jump in and thank everybody for all that you're doing. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'll be sharing my screen here and showing you our enterprise portal. This portal is for our enterprise admins and anyone additional that they determine that they would like access for. So this is our landing page here. And so they'll log in and they access this right from the HFMA website. And if you go to the footer page, you can see we have a link for Enterprise Portal. Of course, it's only available to those that have been given access. So here, when you click on that Enterprise Portal, you'll be brought to a kind of a home page and just a quick snapshot of what the organization is doing. So we can drill down deeper into these numbers in our dashboard, but this is just to give kind of an overview for the admin. And then we have up on top here, so we have different tabs to choose from. So I won't be going over too much in detail with the roster, but just to let you know that that admins can add, delete, and edit their roster right from here. So they, we ask that they maintain it over time too. So this is how they'll remove members from their organization. When they remove members from their organization, they are given a 90-day grace period to give them a chance to enroll in HFMA as a regular member. So getting into the dashboard here, we have 4 different tabs to choose from. So we break it down by membership, live events, education, and certification. And in our membership tab, so you will see this is a growing organization, so maybe they're new to enterprise. So they have 5 members here. They started at 2, and then this will show you that that they've added 3 members and they've grown 150%. So you'll see that growth over time in this membership trend box. We even show by members by level too. So if they're if executive or professional, you'll see that here. And all of the fields are dynamic here. So if you right click on a field, you can drill through to see those members. And then you can even, and then even our members can then export those, that report. We also list our certifications, a certification snapshot too, but of course more detail can be found in the tab. So if we move to the live events, this is where we show, live in-person events or our virtual conferences, live webinar registrations, and such. So you can see we designate for the calendar year for live events, and then we also have that broken out here so you can see each individual event that people are registered for. And you can, again, right click to see those people if you wanted to see who was indeed registered. And then once the event has passed, if they have attended, you'll see that that information here. So you'll see the people that had attended that conference or registered for that conference, if it's passed. And then we have our live webinar registrations, and that's going to show from our enterprise start date to current, because most of the data in here is from the start of the enterprise agreement. And this will show anyone that's registered for a live webinar. And that's also shown here too. So, and even if someone is not registered, they will show all of the upcoming webinars here. And then we also show month by month the attendance for those webinars. Again, most everything is dynamic. We even calculate the CPE surveys completed. So if anyone had taken a survey to obtain the CPE credit, that information can be found here. And then CPE points earned, that is found here, and that includes both chapter, national, and anything that is entered for credits in their profile. Moving on to our education. So for education, we are showing our business of healthcare, patient financial communications, patient access essentials, and then all of our e-learning courses, formerly the E2 Learning. So you'll see the breakout here to the right of the page. So this kind of has the breakdown of each course that has been enrolled in. So you'll see all of the different the titles, who's registered, who's started, and then if anyone is completed. So it just gives a little bit more breakdown than over that you see on this side of the screen. But this also shows you your registrants in this column and then any completions here. So again, you can even right click to see who started and who is registered right from there. Hopefully pretty intuitive. And then we have our certification tab, which is much like our education tab. And we have certification completions, and this is from enterprise start date to current. So only those that had registered after they started enterprise. So we have 8 people that registered for certifications, or 8 certifications registered for, and 2 of those have completed. So that means 25% of our members, our enterprise members for this organization are certified. And then here, this will show all certified members. So we have 3. One person was, so here we have 2, and here we have 3. So that means that just one person was certified prior to enterprise. So this is showing you all the people in your organization that are certified. And much like the education, so you can see the registered, started, and certified, so completed. And again, right click just to, if you wanted to see those people. So if you say drill through, you can see who has completed the awarded date, and you can also export the report as well, of course. And then the bottom box we have here is showing anyone that is certified and if they're going to be expiring that day, that year. So current expiration fiscal year. We don't have any. These were newer certifications, so they're not expiring, and But if they were, you'd see numbers populated here, and then if the certification requirements were met or not met yet. So that's our dashboard, and that's where they can find in-depth reporting for their members. We also have an education tab here, and this would lead them over to their My eLearning. If they have an institute, and they, some organizations do assign courses, so they can use this link to get right into their institute. And they can even, so they can assign courses to their employees if they wish. And they can also even do even deeper dive reportings too. There are even reports that have a little bit more details in terms of the scores and such. And just a note for the future, we are adding additional functionality in the next coming year. So we're really excited to offer more opportunity or more information for our enterprise admins within the admin portal. And then lastly, we have our resources tab. So we send a lot of resources via email, but we also include most of those documents here. So they live here in the library. So we have our onboarding resources. So that includes, our bulk upload template, what they can use to enroll a bulk amount of bulk employees. We have our introduction, other things that are helpful when they first start out. And then we have our instructions on how to access different things, how to enroll in enterprise membership and how to access education. And then we have even more education resources too. We have a lot of one-pagers and such that help, that they can share with their teams too. And that is the enterprise portal.
All right.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thank you. We do have, we're starting to see some questions coming in, populating the chat. And the first one comes from Sam King. Hopefully I'm going to get this right, Sam. So if I'm not, please correct me. But the question is, what is the lag between when you add a member and the member status and access that an individual can see? So I'm assuming that from the time you add an enterprise member or any member, what's the lag time between that and when you can actually see what their status is?
Yes. So if they add a person in the roster, it goes through an approval process. So it gets filtered through back to HFMA to just review, and it's typically approved within, I would say, up to 3 hours, and then it would go live in their portal.
Okay. Let's see. We have another question from Stephen. What is the minimum number of members for an organization to become an enterprise organization or an enterprise member?
So Heather, I'll take this one. And hello, it's Rich Lucas. I'm our Director of Channel Assets. As far as a minimum number, there isn't really a minimum number. However, you have to look at where you get your return on your investment. Where is your break-even point? So how pricing works for enterprise membership, we base it upon the net patient revenue of an organization. There are tiers that they fall into. We currently have 8 different tier levels. And then we take that net patient revenue, and there's a pricing level. It's pretty simple to figure out then from there how many of the individual membership it would take to get to that number, and that would get you your break-even. So what we look at in the smaller organizations, if you're going to have a dozen, 2 dozen members, it makes a lot of sense to get involved with it. But it depends on the organization size.
We had a question that was a carryover from the last session from Nicole, and she had asked, how can we be made aware of enterprise renewals so we can gain an understanding of membership numbers that can shift dramatically?
Yeah, Lynn, I'll take that one as well. We can maybe touch a little bit on the whole renewal process. Enterprise membership contracts have been for 3 years. They're 3-year subscriptions. As Bill mentioned at the top of this, we are now reaching that 3-year point. So we are actually at the point where renewals are starting to come up. The first renewal, our friends at Trinity already have renewed. We only have 6 organizations that their renewals will come up yet this calendar year, and we have 19 before the end of the fiscal year. With the second one, if you were on the session last time with Wendy from Providence, she mentioned that they were the second organization to come on board. That makes them also the second organization that's coming up for renewal. One of the things that we did with them, or with the chapters, actually was earlier this week. We met with all of the chapters that would be impacted, had an opportunity to talk through what the renewal looked like, to get any kind of anecdotal, how have you engaged, or what has the experience been like with Providence. Wendy was on that call as well. We believe this will be a nice best practice. That renewal is not for several months. So, there is a little bit of time that we are continuing to work on that to have that move forward. So we'll see. The other thing that's interesting about these renewals, these first 19 that are coming up, the model has changed from when they came on board initially. Most of those organizations, when they joined, they had to have one contract for the enterprise membership, and then if they wanted to participate in certifications, we sold certification seats on top of that. When we changed to the all-inclusive model, all of those organizations actually were given the certifications at no extra charge. They were rolled into the new model. So if we look at the initial purchasing decisions that they made, they're actually now getting a larger value for that same purchase. So we feel pretty confident in where we're going with the renewals. The experience so far has been pretty good, but we're going to need everybody's help, and certainly want to engage the chapters as we go.
Okay. So Rich, what's the smallest and the largest enterprise members, if you can share, just not necessarily the names, just what's the smallest and maybe the largest that we've got so far?
Yeah, we have members that have well over 2,000 members within their organization, some of the very large guys. We have several that are over 1,000 members, so there are some very large organizations out there. At the end of last year, we introduced enterprise membership for critical access hospitals. So we put together a special program to make it very cost effective for a critical access hospital to participate. And since then, we have had 25 critical access hospital organizations sign up for enterprise. And those are very small. Some of those have 6 to 8 members total. So there really does run the gamut. That's why we put that tiered pricing tied to the net patient revenue in it. We wanted to make sure that it could scale to large organizations, smaller organizations. When we look at the business partner side, we also, enterprise membership is there for our business partners, and we have quite a number of those that are involved. And those scale the same way. It's a little different though, since there isn't really a net patient revenue involved there. It's based upon the number of FTEs they want to enroll in the program. And so in that case, you actually select how many people should we enroll, how many members are we going to have with our business partnership. And those also, we have business partners that have several thousand members. We have business partners that our lowest tier is 50. It used to be 40, it got adjusted to 50. So we have some that are in that 40-50 range at the lower end.
We've had a similar question, and I think it's been answered maybe in some of the chat, but there's been several questions about how does the chapter leadership team get access to the enterprise portal?
So I can help with this. I thought they phoned a friend quick. So yeah. We actually don't allow the chapters to have the access to the enterprise portal because it has private information or confidential information around the enterprise client. But if you looked at the portal that Heather showed earlier, it's very similar to what our chapter portal looks like and has similar information. So your chapter member information, you can see the live events, the online education, the certification in the same fashion that what Heather was showing. You can drill that down by organization if you just want to manipulate your Excel spreadsheet or filter a certain way on the information when you download it or export it out of the chapter portal. So the enterprise portal is not available to the chapters, but the same content is available throughout the chapter portal. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that with the question that was coming in.
Yeah, and Tracy, I think a great way to think about it is the enterprise members, they're on their journey for their organization. And so there are goals that will tie out to the chapters, but there's also how they're doing their employee development and some of those pieces. And so it is their tool to manage that whole membership.
Right. So before I leave, I do have a question in the chat that came in about renewals. So how do we know when renewal times are for the groups that are that are mostly in our chapter? So is there a report or an email that is sent out to us? So when will the chapters be notified if one of the organizations within the chapter are coming up for renewal?
Yeah, so that, again, great question. We're in new grounds here. Again, we've had one renewal so far. So we have to figure out what that process looks like. I don't really have an answer other than to say we will be reaching out. And I don't know if that's something that maybe in the chapter toolkit we can make available there. We can certainly follow up on that.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, and this one was I noticed was in the chat, and it was more of a comment, but I think it's a question that I've heard out on facilitations and whatnot. So maybe it's something that we can talk to. And this comes from one of the chapters that says that the enterprise handoffs have been a little spotty at times. And is there a formalized handoff process from the enterprise administrator or champion or what have you to the chapter leaders so that that connection is made? So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull Tracy in again with the phone a friend, but I think it is something that we can talk about. The handoff to the chapters has been an area that we've had difficulty over the 3 years. We continue to strive to improve it. But there has been difficulty from a logistics standpoint of trying to get everybody together to get them on the same page. There's been it just has been a challenge.
Right.
Our enterprise team made this one of the initiatives that we were working through to try to formalize that process. And you know, Tracy, if you want to take us through that,
yeah.
We've made some significant progress there, I think.
Yeah, so I'll go back all the way to Fall President's Meeting last year in September. We had lots of discussion around enterprise and communication, and the council and everybody kind of came together to talk about how can we improve the communication. And that is a lot of when we came up with, the enterprise organization goals and the chapter, how do they know when to start communicating with the enterprise client? Do they need to? And sometimes the answer is no. And I think that we as the association maybe didn't communicate that well because we didn't know through the onboarding process either, because when talking through enterprise, there's a lot of benefits that are available to the enterprise organization. And a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then they kind of review it and they're like, yeah, we don't want to do that right now, but maybe in 6 months. And so now what we've done is we're doing those touch points and reviewing things a little bit more frequently and bringing the chapters on board when the time is right, per se. The onboarding is still happening, but we're doing things a little bit more together instead of so segmented. Before we were trying to set up meetings with all the chapters separately with the president and the president-elects, and now we're doing it by organization and trying to get them together so everybody's hearing the same message at the same time as well. So I think those things are going better. That started in November, December last year. And we've made improvements since then because we've learned through the process that, 15-minute meetings were not sufficient. So now we're up to 30-minute meetings. And in some cases, if we have more than, 3 chapters, we've even increased to 45 minutes. So there's been improvements along the way for those onboarding. And it's a give and take. It is a time for the organization, the enterprise organization, to give feedback, but then it's also time for each chapter to be able to ask questions. Do you want help with your certification goals, if that was something that they mentioned? Is there opportunity for lunch and learn for certification? Or we understand that you want your employees to be more involved with volunteering, and how do we engage with that? And I will say that it's a two-way street, because we've also received feedback from the enterprise organizations that they haven't received the communication back from the chapter. So we put them together, and then we've heard, well, you know, we had this meeting with these 3 chapters and we haven't heard from anybody. Should we reach out to them? How do we get connected? And we've had to, you know, align those communications too. So it has really been, like Rich said, you know, it's a work in progress. And in the 3 years we've done this thing, I do think that we're on the uphill, you know, trend right now. And I think that we're seeing the communication improve tremendously, which always, you know, I always say that is where we have to start, is communicate. So just know that if you have any ideas, we are open for, you know, suggestions, because that we want to make sure that everybody is getting the information that they need as well. I know Brianna posted earlier in the chat in the library of the client goal worksheet that we put together late last year, and we update that every month at the beginning of the month, and we try to do it that first week in the month, and Heather and Brianna work on that together, and that is updated with any new goals that we've learned about, as well as any new clients that have been onboarded throughout that specific month. So does that help?
Yeah.
And Tracy, if I can touch on the goals part of that just for a second. The goals are an evolving thing. What we find quite often is when we sign up an enterprise client, they have one set of goals, one idea of what they want to use the membership for. And that's typically what's communicated at that chapter onboarding meeting. But at the same time, Heather's team meets on a quarterly basis, proactively is meeting with these enterprise clients. And one of the purposes of that meeting is to make sure that we're course correcting on their goals. That, you know, are you achieving what you were setting out to achieve? Are there other things that you're hoping to do? And so those goals keep evolving. And I know that as we go, that's part of why the membership works. It isn't just a static thing. It lives and breathes with the organization. So.
Well, and Heather, I'm going to ask you to elaborate a little bit on, you know, we've gotten contacted recently by a few of our organizations that we're pulling in some chapters with now, because I think we're doing a more purposeful, touch base with our clients. So would you kind of just give a little bit on how we've changed those quarterly meetings? Because we did do, a change in how we were running the quarterly meetings with the enterprise organizations as well.
Yeah, so we're trying. So with our quarterly reviews now, we're trying to have a more proactive conversation of, what's keeping them up at night, what pain points they're seeing, how we can help more. So we're hoping to have more organic conversations there, instead of kind of just running through some numbers on, because before we were showing our numbers on our portal, and so we didn't have as much time to spend on really digging into what's some key issues that they want to address. And so I think that the conversations are evolving a little more. So I think it's a positive sign. And so I think going forward, we're going to see some more information from those.
I'm going to take one last question. Nicole has, who completes the enterprise client goals that are on the website? And there are a few that are blank. And so I just want to address that, because on the last call I mentioned that, but we didn't address it on this one. So we didn't really start this spreadsheet until October, November last year. So we really were trying to put together information that would be useful for, the chapters and the organizations. And so you'll notice that at the top of the worksheet, it's pretty sparse. Like, there's not a lot of information. It's kind of blank. But then when you get towards the middle and the bottom of it, it's pretty, full of information. And so we haven't been able to populate the top of that per se, but we are doing our best. And when we do those quarterly calls, Heather and her team are populating that information as it comes in. So we appreciate everybody's patience with that. And like, when Rich said, we started 3 years ago, we didn't really have, this template put together. This was something that was just kind of crafted last year. So, we've added columns as the time has went on too, just like in January, February, and March, we were even adding more information that we thought would be useful for the organizations and the chapters. So just, that is an evolving document that will continue to change.
And I think we can actually even add some a column of the expiration date too, since there's a lot of people interested in the expiration dates, and I see that was missing from that document. It has the start date, so we'll include that expiration date moving forward too.
Yay!
Great. There's a couple of questions here, or one's more of a request, and then there's a question, and they're both about critical access hospitals. So one comment is, please tell us more about the critical access enterprise program. And there's someone else put a question, who is the enterprise team member who handles the critical access enterprise members, maybe specifically for the Midwest, but in general, is there someone who could come and present that information to the chapters so that they're aware of the critical access portion of the enterprise membership?
Sure, I can address that. So the critical access hospital program is really new. Yeah, it's evolving as we go. So first off, who's the rep? Jennifer Vandenberg is our account executive who can work with you on critical access hospitals and can explain the benefits and what it's all about. So Jennifer is the correct contact for it. However, we are in the process of automating the critical access hospital, the process online, where you can actually, as a critical access hospital, go online, read about the program, put it in your shopping cart, and pay for it through your credit card, and all the onboarding pieces, all of that would be automated. Again, very small organizations, it's kind of easy to get our arms around automating it. We are hopeful that sometime in August, that'll actually be live on the website, so that process will be a little more streamlined. In the meantime, again, Jennifer Vandenberg can help out with it. The program is really no different than the enterprise for the really big guys. It's still that full access. It is still an unlimited number of users that can join the program. They have to be part of that program or part of that organization. The organization has to have the CMS designation as being a critical access hospital, meet all the rules, the 25 beds, 35 miles, all of the pieces that go into that. And it is a way that we can provide a very cost-effective way for these folks to get into it.
All right, great.
Hopefully that answers, but Jennifer was certainly open to answer more about it. There is on the website as well. So,
if that didn't answer, I'm sure they'll let us know.
Heather and Rich, have you found most of the enterprise administrators to be pretty seasoned HFMA members? So, in many cases?
Yes, mostly.
Yeah, definitely.
I would expect so.
Folks that have been designated. Now, what we also have seen in many organizations, it changes. Somebody will do it for a year, and then a new person will come on board. So we have that, and we have the ability to help train. And Heather's team does a great job of training and helping bring people along with it. And there are organizations where we have multiple administrators, and so that also can sometimes play. But yeah, it's usually us old-time HFMAers. So.
All right, we have another question. Can we tell which members are enterprise members through the portal, and how do we tell who at that organization that hasn't activated that membership?
So as far as who at an organization, we actually take the roster from that organization at the beginning during the onboarding, and we convert everybody that is a non-enterprise member over to enterprise. There's really no reason to continue on as an individual member because all of your history, your certifications, all of that kind of stuff comes with you when you make that conversion. So when you look at the roster, they're actually designated as an EM instead of one of the other designations, so you can see that they are an enterprise member out there. The only case that's the exception with that is with our business partners, because they actually have the number of FTEs that they're designated. So in those cases, there may be some HFMA members that are not enterprise that are part of those organizations. And Heather, I saw you were trying to jump in there. What else did you want to say?
Oh, no, you covered it.
Heather keeps me in line. Lord knows, Heather's a rock star. So
somebody has to.
Yeah, somebody has to keep me in line. So between her and the teams, it's good stuff. So.
All right. I don't have any other questions in the chat box. I'm going to go back to a couple that came up last time and make sure we've answered all of those. I think we kind of answered this one. This came from Jesse. I think we answered it. So if we did, this might be redundant, but what is the chapter relations at the association doing to provide a template or a structure to connect the new enterprise organizations with the local chapters that are impacted? And I think you've already addressed that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we covered those questions.
And Jesse, if we haven't covered it, please feel free to reach out. We're glad to talk through it.
Yeah. Let's see. Nicole says that I saw there were categories of advanced member and ex-advanced member. This may not directly apply to enterprise, but I'd like to understand what this is. Are those, I don't know. Is that a...
They don't, we don't use them for enterprise. So we typically, we don't reference them within, I think they're actually going to be going away.
Historically, it's just been a pretty seasoned member who's, engaged in the organization as a volunteer and, for at least a couple of years. And then, so I would imagine an ex would be somebody who has just kind of fallen off the radar or is just really not continuing to be active.
Well, if it does say X, that does mean that they are an ex-member. So if they were to rejoin, they would be considered, they would go right back to that advanced member. But if it does say X, that means that they are an ex-member.
Then I'm sure you're one and you don't even know
it. What are you trying to say, Bill? I'm advanced.
No, not that advanced. All right, I'm backing out. Rewind the tape. The tape.
Yes. All right. So what does the onboarding look like for enterprise members? Do they get communication templates to send to their new members within the organization? We have found that people didn't know that they had an HFMA membership or that their organization or company had joined as an enterprise member. So what kind of tools do you give to the enterprise members to share that information with their employees?
Sure. So I'll take that. So during onboarding, with our enterprise admins or anyone that's on the call during that first onboarding session, we do provide them a template welcome email that they can share with their organization and email and blast it out and inform them that these benefits are now available to them. So we always strongly encourage that they send this announcement out so that when they do get our announcement, we convert them over to an enterprise, that they're not surprised, that they don't think that it's spam or invalid or anything like that, because that has happened when an organization doesn't alert them. But when we do convert a member, they automatically will get if they're brand new, they will get 2 emails. They'll get an account creation email and then a new member welcome kit. So it kind of has links on where to go and such. It'll show them their username and their chapter. It'll have a link to go and reset their password if they didn't do that from the account creation. If they were a converted member and they were a past member or a current member, non-enterprise, they will also get just one welcome email with the same information as well. And then we have a monthly communication that goes out too. We have an e-newsletter that goes out to all of our enterprise members, just explaining the benefits that are available to them. And many times it does reference the, even in our welcome email, it does designate that this is an employer an employee benefit, something that's paid by their employer so that they know.
I can also address the part where, we have people that their organizations bought the membership and they didn't even know that they were a member yet. Part of the goal setting with the organizations is how they want to roll out the program. How do they want to move forward within their organizations? Some organizations opt for staged or tiered approaches when it comes to their rollout. They may only have their revenue cycle staff, or they may only have their frontline staff, or it may only be the finance team. It may be very specific in how they are rolling it out, in which case we do a staged communication. And that would explain you may have somebody at an organization who wasn't part of an earlier stage who doesn't know that they're yet a member. We're constantly looking at the toolkit that Heather's talked about and tweaking it as far as trying to make sure that the communication happens. At the end of the day, that what we find from best practice are those organizations that take it on their own that start doing more and more communication. You see organizations that build landing sites within their own intranet that work really well because it's a place where employees can go and sign up for education and learn what's new from a webinar or whatever the next thing is. So I think it's different from organization to organization. However, there's lots of templates that we try to use to help aid in that process.
Right. So what happens if the enterprise employee leaves that organization? What happens? Do they lose their membership? Can it be transferred? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so when somebody leaves the organization, we try to work with them and the organization to make sure they don't lose their membership. It can be converted and is converted back to an individual membership where we give them a window of time, it's typically 90 days, to enact an individual membership. So they'll get a series of communications. It's very similar to the communication chain that you get when your membership year is expiring. You'll get your notice that, hey, you're expiring, hey, here's your 30-day window. Bill's going to come and see you if you don't sign up soon, right, Bill? So it's that same sort of thing where that individual who's left the organization is given a chance to convert to an individual membership. The organization itself, because it's an unlimited membership, they really don't feel an impact of losing that membership. They can, again, as other people are coming on board, they can sign them up, et cetera.
Okay. So you would say then if they have that 90-day window. I'm going to ask my own follow-up question here. They have that 90-day window to convert to an individual membership. So we would anticipate that during that 90-day window, however, what is the status of their membership look like on the roster, for example, for when the chapter leaders, does it stay in that enterprise? Are they in limbo? How does it show for their reporting purposes?
Yeah, so some of it's communication. We have to know that this event has actually even occurred. That is sometimes a challenge. If we know the event has occurred, they're converted to a regular member. So they would show up in your reporting as a regular member rather than an EM or an enterprise member.
Okay. Great. I do not show any other questions right now in the Q&A. I don't know if you guys have been scanning the chat to see if there's any that were populated out there, but
there's a question about the community being down, and I am in the community, so I don't think it is down. I'm able to access. So it says, is the community page down? It just gets stuck in the vicious cycle of login and the page refreshing. So I have logged out and logged back in, and I am not having that page refreshing thing. If you can try to use Google Chrome, seems to like our community better than any other.
Tracy?
Yes.
I had the same issue. This is Brianna. I had the same issue this morning with that login. And all I did was log out of my account and then my hfma.org account and log back in. And then it was working fine, kind of like you said. So hopefully that works for everyone else. I had the same issue twice today, so.
All right, so and it looks like others are able to access in both Edge and Chrome. So we are good to go. All is okay. Well, we are good. Everything is okay in the community.
By the way, there is a community for our administrators for Enterprise. That is another place where we put all their resources and tools, give them a chance to talk amongst themselves if there's questions that they have. That's a new addition as well.
Great. Any other questions? I don't see any populating the Q&A. I'm surprised that there aren't. Usually this is a hot topic.
Well, I did want to mention, if we wait for additional questions, if there was anything we can help with, or if you, I wanted to give a little shout out to our enterprise specialist. So, of course, myself I'm a part of the team, but then we also have Shane Baker and Jim Kokenis. We recently added a new team member. So Jim is new to our enterprise team, very seasoned with HFMA, not new at all. So you may recognize his name. But we're very, so we're always willing to help. So reach out at any time. Yeah.
And I would echo that with the outside enterprise teams. The team is here to work with the enterprise organizations, but they'll also work with the chapters. I know many of you have worked very closely with Vince and Lynn over the last year or two, doing those onboarding calls. Jennifer Vandenberg and Rick Schellenberg is our business partner specialist when it comes to enterprise. All three of them would answer the questions much better than I would. Please feel free to reach out to them. They do a fantastic job.
Rich and Heather, thanks to you and your team for everything you guys are doing around this topic.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right, I still don't see any additional questions. So if we don't have any, then I think we'll give you back a few minutes of your time for this session. So thank you all for joining us for the Enterprise Membership session. Our next session begins at...
There's one more question.
Oh, one more question popped up. Excuse me. Could you touch on how you recruit enterprise members, or is it mostly leaders reaching out with interest? Most of our enterprise members started as engaged chapter members whose senior leaders then purchased enterprise membership.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You see a lot of the organizations are folks that have been very actively involved with enterprise or with HFMA in the past. However, we also have marketing efforts. There are quite a bit of word of mouth things that are going on. My team is actively beating the bushes to try to work with organizations. We work with chapters. We're open to ideas, but there are a lot of places that we work. One of the areas that we are now working with is more the talent development officers or HR folks, because again, the way the education can be used for the talent development or career pathing for individuals. So there are different places that we can go to try to work and recruit, but certainly would appreciate any thoughts or help or any ideas. Again, talking to my team that I just mentioned, they would gladly follow up on any ideas.
You know, I'll just add, as an individual member, I'm probably more engaged with the association digitally this year than, understandably so, I guess, but digitally more so this year than I have been in the past. There's so many great resources that are being made available out there for members. So good stuff.
All right.
Yeah. So just a reminder, there will be another link for our final session of the day, and we're going to utilize a Zoom tool called Breakout Room, which ought to be great. It'll give us a chance to break out and have some actual collaboration among chapter leaders. So I think you'll find it very informative. So we look forward to having you back at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central.
You know what? We have a couple minutes, so we had another question pop up.
Okay.
Is there a break-even point where enterprise membership is less expensive than covering individual members?
As we talked about earlier on how pricing works, it's based on the net patient revenue. And so there are different tiers. At each tier, I'm sure there's a break-even point where you could look at, if I purchased this many individual memberships, it would cost me X. whereas the enterprise membership costs Y. And so that can be calculated, and it's different from tier to tier. You know, each tier, as you would increase, that break-even number would change as well.
All right. Okay, before we try to, we close too early, I'm going to leave it for a second because that's happened twice now. Not trying to cut anybody off. So are there any more questions for the panelists? Oh, look, see, there we go. Fast typers. Can members refer a contact for enterprise membership like you do with referring individual members? Is there a referral program for enterprise members?
There is not as of this point, but it's a really interesting concept. I know we have a great program on an individual basis, so I like the idea. Maybe that's something that we can take a look at. And I'll add one more thing as we are winding down. Feel free to reach out to me afterwards if there are other questions that if we just run out of time here. It's rlucas@hfma is my email. 630-940-7197 is my cell. Reach out anytime. I'll gladly help you out. Direct you to somebody that knows the answers if I don't. So.
All right. Any other questions?
Good stuff. I can't help but think back to LTC last year and the questions people had around enterprise membership, and how much more informed we are about it at this point. So, cool.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Make sure you're still posting on social media using the hashtag 2020LTC. And we'll see you back here soon. Remember to use the different Zoom link, and we'll complete our last session at 2:30 p.m. Central Time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.